Hey everybody, Stu Smith here going live and happy Monday. We are going to do a lot of things today, but first of all, I want to ask you a question. Give me some ideas for a topic to write about. Just running a blank. I got dozens of things I could write about, but nothing's flowing. So hopefully one of your questions today will inspire it. In fact, one of yours inspired one of my articles I did last week. I wrote 4 articles last week. In fact, if you're not familiar with where I put most of my articles, check out this page. Um, this is military.com. They pay me to write articles, and I've been writing articles for them for a very long time. Um, in fact, you guys, I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but these are just some of this is my military fitness page over there. So military.com/military dash fitness and all kinds of stuff. Like a lot of these are questions you guys have asked. Are combative sports good preparation for military? What are the best fins to buy? Um, 2 approaches to military recruiting, 7 reasons to give Sober October a try. Have you tried it? Hope it's working for you. Um, then there's a little section here on tactical fitness. Should I worry about the PED testing at Buds? Yes, you should. Um, how much time should I spend on training? Here's the secret to passing military fitness tests. That's a classy one. I don't come up with these titles sometimes, but it's a pretty good secret. Um, here's how non-swimmers athletes can improve at swimming. Dozens, in fact, hundreds of articles over there. So I literally have over 1,000 articles out there. So you can Google a question and put my name in it. Chances are I've written about it if it's about military fitness testing. So um, let me see. One of my most recent last week was from one of you guys. You guys asked me a question: where should I place swimming in my workout schedule? That was either from you guys live show or it was from an email. Can't remember, but it was a good question. And then I got clever and wrote this one. This is a good one. Number one reason why people fail Spec Ops training. Guess what it is? Anybody. If you can guess the right answer without looking at the article, I'll give you one of these books. I only have a few left. One word. It's one word, right? I'll give you the spring training or this spring training workout book for free. I'll mail it to you. Just send me your address. What's the one word why people fail Spec Ops training? Age is not it. Not it at all. Well, I guess it could be if you're 18. That's a good reason. But it comes down to something. Not cold water. Die before quitting. Nope. The cold. Nope. I'll give you a few more guesses. It's pretty common sense. Unprepared. There you go. Looks like John. I tell you what, I'll give you guys came in at a tie, Matt and John. So Matt says, or John says unprepared. Matt says preparation. So I have books ready to go, already packaged up, ready to mail. Send me your address for shipping, and I will mail you one of these. So you get spring training block periodization, or you get spring summer PT cardio cycle with supplemental lifts. Both of them have some lifting in there for maintenance, but most of them or the majority of these are focusing purely on crushing calisthenics and cardio. Not just fitness tests, but longer runs, longer swims, higher higher rep activities, work capacity, stuff like that. So how about that right from the start? If you came early, you got yourself a book. But it is preparation. Preparation is the number one reason. So there you go. Well, that was fun. But there's a lot to it besides just preparation. People don't prepare for the PFT, believe it or not, they don't get accepted. Period. So that's the biggest way. They don't prepare themselves to get through the pipeline. That's the big one, right? They don't prepare for 4-mile runs and boats and logs and swims with fins. They don't prepare for the mental side of it as well, which is very challenging. And they don't get good at things they are not currently good at doing. Basically, they let their weaknesses get exposed very quickly and they fall apart. So there you go. So that's a quick book giveaway there. You guys send me your email address or send me your address to stu@stewsmith.com and I will mail you those books. You can tell me which one you want because I have, let me see, I have spring training. I have 2 of each. So I'll give you one or the other. You can get the block periodization spring training or you can get the spring summer program. But Alex, you're close. Age is a big one, right? A um, majority of the people who do not make it are teenagers. But that's not the reason why. Teenagers do make it through. Some, but they are well prepared. Good question. I thought that was fun. What's your opinion on bud weed for recovery purposes? I wouldn't do it. I mean, I will say this. I'm not in the military, so I can smoke all the weed I want. I don't. I don't take any weed. I do have some CBD. This is somebody sent me this. CBD PM makes you go night night quicker. I guess I haven't really noticed it. I sleep pretty well without it. But so I don't know enough about it, to be honest with you. Personally, your number one and number two best methods for recovery is sleep and nutrition. You can smoke all the weed and do all the foam rolling and massage tools, whatever else, heat therapy, ice baths. You can do whatever you want. Sleep and nutrition will cover 90% of your recovery. The missing 10% is where everybody spends all their money buying all the crap. Focus on your sleep and nutrition if you want to recover. Period. All right. Are supplements allowed at Buds? No. You can't have anything that says supplement facts. If it says supplement facts on the back, you can't have it. Now, you can have stuff that says nutrition facts. And let me see if I have some here. I usually have some protein, but I keep it up in the kitchen. Some proteins are actually considered food. The Ascent protein brand, I personally like pure whey protein or casein protein, has nutrition facts on the back. That is considered food. So there you go. Yeah, I don't have any. I just got vitamins over here that are considered supplements. So unfortunately, yes, you can't have supplements at Buds, but you can have food, all the food you want. What are areas people usually underprepared? Great question. Because it depends. It depends a lot on your athletic history. Everybody has a different area of under preparation. no matter what their journey is. You come to this game, not really a game, but you come to this beginning of this transition from athlete to tactical athlete with a certain amount of strengths and weaknesses. You bring a certain amount of strengths to the table. My personal story, powerlifting, football player, everybody's heard that before. I was strong and I was fast for very short distances. Not fast enough to make college football teams, but I was fast enough to make high school football teams, um, which isn't saying much. Um, but I never really considered longer distance runs. I never considered a lot of high rep calisthenics. So those were my weaknesses. Muscle stamina and endurance were my weaknesses. I have buddies of mine that came through this same journey that were just the opposite. They could run, they could swim, but they were very weak, right? And first they had to build up with some calisthenics, get those better, and then they still had some weaknesses because they'd never lifted before. So they came to this journey with a certain amount of weaknesses. So what happens is if you ignore those weaknesses, they will be exposed in the first week of training, if not the first day of training, right? You will be wishing you had done X, whatever that weakness is, because you just realized you made a big mistake because you can't hang with the pace. You can't lift this log. It's crushing you. You can't carry this ruck, carry the weight in a ruck, etc. You can't swim. You can't tread. All of these little things. So that is how people are underprepared. And it really depends on the individual. It depends on their athletic history. It depends on their time they're actually training to prepare for this journey. Sometimes it takes a year, sometimes it takes a little more. I've seen guys who have a really good, diverse athletic history. Um, maybe they did cross country and wrestling and lacrosse or something, right? I'm trying to think out that worked well in those cycles. Um, so they're multi-sport athletes that have a wide variety of skills coming into the game. Um, they may have lifted because of lacrosse. They may have done some speed and agility because of lacrosse, hand-eye coordination. They just got tough with wrestling. They run a lot with wrestling. They're just calisthenics, mentally tougher. They're just fighting, and then running, that just sucks, period. So those guys are, seeing Jesus whenever they run, so there's some mental development going on that makes you just tougher when you do those type of activities. And the elements of fitness that get created are going to be part of your tactical fitness resume, so to speak. And if you have glaring weaknesses on there, they will be exposed, and you will have to do one of two things. One, you will fail to meet the standards, or two, you will have to make that event your personal gut check, daily gut check. So if you're not very strong, those logs and boats are going to crush you for the first 4 weeks of buds. The good news is if you can get through those first 4 weeks, and the fourth one being hell week, um, that's really good because you'll never touch a log and boat again at buds if you're lucky. Um, or if you're unlucky, you will. It's very rare. Um, but you will ruck, but it's going to turn more into a calisthenics cardio cycle when you're going through the rest of buds, learning all the tactical skills. You'll still do some load bearing, but it's not anything like those first 4 weeks. So being able to have the durability to get through those first 4 weeks are the biggest challenge. That's where 90%, 95% of your class quit or fail in those first 4 weeks. After that, it's a tactical reason usually why people don't make it. They're unable to learn the scuba skills. They're unable to learn land nav or unable to shoot. Those are type of things people get rolled or kicked out for, or being stupid, missing curfews and things like that, breaking rules. So there you go. A lot of big answers for that underprepared. So, Blake, good question. Advice for running on soft sand when you don't have immediate access in a city like San Antonio. My advice is, and we do this a lot. In fact, we did it this morning. Running hills. If you can find some hills somewhere, run them because that just makes running harder. Another thing I used to do, I grew up in the swamplands of Florida, so we didn't have a lot of beaches where I lived. It took me 90 minutes to get to a beach. Um, Sometimes I did that, but not often. Not often enough to make it a thing. Um, but I found a farm that was just plowed, and I asked the people who owned it, could I run the perimeter of their farm on a bunch of plowed dirt? And they said sure. And I gave them a case of beer, said thank you, and ran there. So I would ride my bike out to their farm and then run a couple perimeters around this like 2 mile farm and then run back or ride back. So there you go. You have to get creative on those. I also found a dried up riverbed in Florida in the middle of the summer that I would run down as well. But that was just a freak of nature that it was all dried up. But the alligators and snakes are still there. That's another story. Let's see. When entering the water, it takes a few laps to get comfortable with breathing. Do you grow out of that, or is it common? Pretty common. I will tell you this, especially if it's cold. If it's cold water, it may take a minute or two before your breathing gets back to normal. We're swimming open water Friday, and last I checked, it was like 58 degrees, which if you're not swimming with a wetsuit, you're not in there for very long. But your first 3, 4 minutes, you're definitely going, just breathing all over the place, trying to catch your breath. So it's very common when it's cold. If it's not cold, or you're just transitioning out of from maybe heat to cold, sometime and moderately, it relatively feels cold to what you were, it may interfere with your breath. But as long as you can start swimming laps, and by the time you've done 3 to 4 minutes of swimming, you should be breathing normally and not feel that cold anymore. You just kind of blend away with it. But sometimes one of the hardest things to do is to jump in the water. 5:30 in the morning, you just crawled out of a warm bed, and you jump in the water, and you just don't feel like getting wet, but you do anyway. Those are very powerful moments on mental toughness, by the way. You don't build mental toughness by listening to people like me talk about mental toughness. You experience it and you develop it through experience. And that's a really good way. Doing something when you don't feel like it and you do it anyway, that's huge. I mean, and I do that countless times. I do it just about every single day at 6 o'clock in the morning, starting a workout, waking up at 5:15, and not feeling like waking up. I could definitely sleep in. I'm human. But you get up anyway, you get it done. But you will always feel better that you got it done versus skipping it. I promise you that. I've skipped them before too, and you feel like crap, feel guilty the rest of the day. So might as well go make it up. How important is time and attendance? Red Zen, I'm not sure what you're asking. Time and attendance and what? I'm not sure what that refers to. Whenever I try to scissor kick in the water, I sink. Swimming instructor told me to tuck my hips. What does that actually mean? Um, it's a couple things. It could be the fact that you're not producing enough power with your kick to propel you to be horizontal. It could also mean that your head's popping up too much. Like, pretend this is my head here. Like, when you come up to breathe, if your head comes out of the water, your feet are going to drop. Your body acts like this little seesaw, right? So if your head pops up, your feet are going to drop. You're going to be kicking diagonally versus horizontally. So think about this. First, think about turning to breathe, right? If you're on your belly, you're going to turn to breathe, right? Versus popping up to breathe, because as soon as you pop up, your feet are going to be falling and your head's going to be up out of the water. That's the way it works. So turn to breathe like a screwdriver, not like a seesaw. That's first. Now, the other one is, yes, you need to have some form of core strength. So something I would suggest is practice a lot more planking, whether that's in the push up position or just the plank pose itself. You will um uh sorry, I see somebody says I dropped for a minute. Not sure what hang on one second. I'm reading something while I'm trying to explain. Um so anyway, it could be a core weakness that's not allowing you to um just stay straight, right? Maybe your hips are dropping or what, but just plank it out. Work on your plank, work on turning to breathe first, and final is make sure you're getting a really good kick that is propelling you properly. Something you may want to try is try swimming with fins a little bit. That's going to give you a little bit more uh, power in the kick, and see if that flattens you out. If that does, that tells me that your problem isn't necessarily your hips or your core. It's because you're not kicking hard enough to produce enough power to get flatten a plane. Does that make sense? Tucking your hips. Sometimes coaches come up with weird terms that I don't understand either. You know, use your abs, tuck your hips. It could be better explained. So hopefully that helps explain a little bit. What was my favorite thing about being in the teams? You know what? I enjoyed the people, and I missed the people tremendously when I left. And it was really hard to make that transition into basically hanging out with normal people. Luckily, where I lived, there were some former SEALs around that were buddies. And then I got the idea of helping local kids prepare for buds. Um, so I created a program. By the way, you can check it out, heroesoftomorrow.org. It's a free program. A lot of people come here from all over to train with me, and it is free. No, no gimmicks, no nothing. Free training, and I do it 12 hours a week, roughly about 2 hours a day, 6 days a week. And sometimes a little extra, especially if you need help with swimming, because I usually swim on my own at lunch because I'm coaching, if people need help. But it's the people. I was never the strongest, the toughest, the smartest in a room, and it made you bring your A game every day. I was impressed by the people. Switching over to PJ here, and wondering if you'd recommend how to be a PJ programs. Unfortunately, I don't know anything about it, but sounds like probably written by a PJ. Can't be a bad idea, right? I'm not going to knock anybody's program out there that is trying to help people. I assume it works well. That's probably, very much like my journey. I have an answer to a way to train, right? And I'm sure that fella does too. So you could probably learn some good things from from him for sure. But, hunt around, find something that works for you. That's the key. So, time and attendance in regards to being on time. Still don't know what you're talking about. When someone says 8 a.m., will you be dropped a minute or two for being late? No, you won't be dropped, but you'll be punished. If you're sick, you miss a week of training, will you be dropped? Very likely. I think you can only miss 1 or 2 days max and not be rolled or dropped for illness. So you can get a sick in room. Like if you can get a sick in room on a Friday, you'd miss the Friday training, but then you have the weekend to kind of catch your breath and heal up. And if you're still sick on Monday, chances are you're going to be rolled. So that's how that goes. Yeah, if you're asking questions, you need to be a little more thorough with asking questions because I have no idea what you're talking about. Time and attendance, your initial question. But I understand what you're saying now. But it took you 5 times to spit all that out. So come on, man. Alex says, do you ever think there is a guy at NSW that is following you and constantly changes the focus of the grinder on different parts just to give you a challenge in training us? No, I don't think I'm that big a deal. I don't think it's that. I don't train everybody that goes to Buds. I trade many of them, but yeah, I mean, they make changes at Buds regardless. I'm lucky that I also have people who tell me about these changes. Are they taking away rucks? Are they adding rucks? Are they adding a new exercise at Buds that everybody hates? I've made changes to my programming around those changes all the time. Um, and even have like former students that are Buds instructors. So, in fact, the last CO commanding officer of Buds was a former student of mine. So I've been doing this for a while. So I tend to find out these things, but I don't think I'm also, at a place where because I say do flutter kicks, they're going to take out flutter kicks and do something else. So, but interesting observation. So you're supposed to flex your core while swimming? I can't say it's a flex, but it's definitely not a relaxed either, right? It's just engaged. Does that make any sense? Like you're not going to be like trying to show a six pack while you're swimming the whole time or trying to squeeze like you're taking a dump, right? That's not what we're saying. It's just, have an engaged core. So whenever you're gliding like this, you actually are straight, right? Otherwise, your hips are going to fall and your feet are going to dangle and stuff like that. But if you have a weak core, it will show. But if you have a weak kick, it will also show. May not be a core issue at all. My suggestion would be practice your kick with fins and hang out in the plank position when you're not swimming. That way you get both issues. Going into special warfare for EOD. Great. Passed my qualification test. Any advice on how to keep getting better? Well, your big challenges are going to be twofold. Treading water and dive school is no joke. So dive prep, be really good at treading with weight, treading with fins, treading without fins, swimming underwater. All of those things you need to get really good at in order just to get to dive school. Then you got to be comfortable underwater breathing on scuba. My suggestion would be maybe even take a practice or a civilian scuba qualification just to say that you've breathed underwater on scuba before and you understand a little bit of the physics behind it and process of clearing your mask and ditch and dons or something pretty challenging if you're doing breath holds and taking off your fins, mask, snorkel, come up to the surface, follow procedures, dive back down, put them on, clear your mask, come back up. Those are types of challenges that get a lot of people because they're not used to practicing like that. Um, let me think. Then the second one is education. I mean, it's going to be really challenging to um, do anything uh, as far as homework because everything is secret. So you can't take it home to study. So there's a lot of time where you're going to have to be studying these IEDs and explosives and all of those things. Um, so your ability to retain information is very important. So well rested, well tested is a little saying that you might hear in your future to be able to regurgitate some of those things that you learn in class. Okay, so Addison, I've told you everything I know about swimming with a core and tightness. You need to go practice it. So I don't know what else to tell you. I don't focus on like squeezing anything. It's just a body position, right? So get in the water, practice the two things I just told you, and see if that helps. Put on a pair of fins and see if it takes it all away, it's your propulsion issue. Has nothing to do with your core. I've been told not to trust recruiters. Any advice on making sure they don't lie and send you to the fleet? Um, you know what? I think there's two types of recruiters. There are recruiters that will flat out lie to you, and there are recruiters that are just don't know. So they are making a mistake by offering you this path. Then there's recruiters that do everything perfectly. That's my dog. Um, and they understand what you're saying. So the things that you need to do is make sure you know the process of getting to what you want to do. So that means go to the recruiter when you are ready to crush the PST. Don't go to a recruiter and ask them a whole bunch of questions about what is the PST and don't know how to swim and do all that because it's not their job to teach you all that stuff. You have to get prepared on your own. And if you show up on day one and able to crush the PST when you take the PST with the recruiter and scout team, they will take you very seriously. Because you know why? Because 9/10 of everybody that comes in there says, "Hey, yeah, I want to be a SEAL or EOD," and then they screw up and they go take the PST and they've never done any swimming before and they can't pass. They can't even finish the PST. So guess what? They don't get taken seriously by the recruiters, and yeah, those guys get screwed typically because they're unprepared. Number one, unprepared. Um, so my recommendation is to, um, you know, before you talk to any recruiters, be able to crush that PST first. Then thoroughly understand what is going on with the process to go into the recruiter's office, to go into MEPS, what you need to do for MEPS, and then the process of getting qualified medically and everything else. Hang on. All right. Let's see here. Next question. All right. So here's something I came up with, and I want to show you guys this new article I wrote, and it's a new challenge. I call it my Mobility 30. Right. And you have 30 minutes a day challenge. In fact, I'm putting this in here. Putting this in here. You guys can check this out. It's basically half of my normal mobility day that I do on a Wednesday morning. Right. So it's 5 minutes of cardio followed by 5 minutes of stretching or foam rolling or massage. and you do that for 30 minutes. So 3 rounds. Uh, Pretty easy. Yesterday I did it, just walked and stretched every 5 minutes. Easy day, right? And that was my Sunday day off. But this can be for anybody. If you haven't worked out in a very long time, this is a great way to build habits, because the challenge that I put out at there is do this for 30 minutes for 30 days. 30-day challenge, mobility day, and see how you feel at the end of it. I personally, I'm on day 5, so feeling a little, I mean, I can't really tell if I'm feeling better or not, but it's ideal for beginners. It's ideal for those who already exercise, and you can make it part of your workout as a warm up. You can make it part of a cool down. You can do it as a separate session later on in the day. That's what I tend to do. I do my normal workout in the morning. Like today was a hill day, a lot of legs. So later on in today, I will probably go for a swim, put on some fins, tread some water. And towards the last bit of that swim, I will do a session of like 5 minute tread, 5 minute aqua jog, 5 minute stretching, and do that for 30 minutes. And that is kind of like my, you know, 30-minute mobility session that I'm adding to my day. But it's also great for those who are burned out. Like if you're experiencing some of the signs of overtraining, just burned out, overworked, um, and you just need an easy way to get something done that can help you metabolize some of these stress hormones, this is a really good way to do it. And you can do it by walking and biking, doing some box breathing while you're doing it. So 4 second in, 4 second hold, 4 second exhale, 4 second hold. Just kind of go through that little square of box breathing. Breathe and then hold and then exhale for 4. And it's really a good relaxing thing to do. And you can add some stretching, foam rolling, massage to it. And next thing you know, you're feeling pretty good, feeling a little bit better. And so, anyway, it's my Mobility 30. So that's the name of it. And I call it Mobility 30 for 30. Probably can't call it officially that, since that is like an ESPN show, 30 for 30. But it's my Mobility 30 for 30. Consider it. Give it a time. Give it some of your time, and you may be surprised. Hey Stu, local scouts told us that CSS and form for most exercises doesn't really matter. So they don't particularly check your form on PSTs. Is that true? Um, you know what? It depends. I'm sure there are scouts out there that don't care. They're just putting in time. And these aren't SEALs, by the way. These are regular Navy recruiters that have been taught to give the PST. And be honest with you, they may not really know what the actual guidelines are. So that's frustrating, right? Because there is a level of inconsistency from one recruiting district to the other that is you will only see in military recruiting, right? McDonald's has more consistency than our military recruiters, right? What I mean by that is you're in Texas, you eat some McDonald's French fries, or you're in Maryland, you eat some McDonald's French fries, they're going to probably taste the same, right? Whereas if you're in Texas taking a PST and you're in Maryland taking a PST, you may have different standards. Not necessarily standards. You have a goal that you have to reach, but you may have different perfect form definitions if they're even checking it. Some may be over stringent, some may be under. So there you go. I wish I had a better answer for you, but that's the way it is. They hold the keys to you getting into the door, so you got to follow their rules. That's all there is to it. Don't have to like it, just do it. What does a well prepared teenager look like? What does he have that others don't, mentally and physically? This is a really good question. And the teenagers that I have seen who made it through buds were remarkable in some way. Um, like for instance, DJ Shipley, super stud. Um, he went to Buds at 17, right? I think he turned 18 while he was at Buds. But, he also had the opportunity to grow up with a dad who was a SEAL and was able to live in a platoon hut with a bunch of SEALs. And so, the impossibility factor for him was not even there, right? It was not even a thought that this was something that people don't do or can't do, right? He knew how to prepare. He made himself ready to for those challenges. Plus, you know, it wasn't an impossibility for him, right? A lot of people come into these things, and the perfect storm for a failure of a teenager is, you leave home for the first time, you're thrown in a room with 50 other people that are strangers, and you're forced to live together, and um, long days, pretty stressful, people yelling at you all the time. And then you go to another city and uh, have new people that you have to get to know, new strangers, and then you're being asked to perform at the highest level of you've ever thought was even humanly possible. And then right in the middle of that, your girlfriend breaks up with you from high school, and you're homesick and you're feeling down. And those are the types of things that crush a teenager's mind. And a lot of times they're just underprepared physically because they're not even finished growing yet. So, what does a prepared teenager look like? Just the opposite of all that. They are fully grown, meaning, right, they're not going to gain, 3 or 4 inches while they're going through buds. Um, they finish growing early, so maybe hit puberty a little bit early. Um, they've prepared themselves in a way where they're used to receiving negative feedback. Maybe they've also worked hard somewhere in their life where it's a manual labor job over the summers. Um, and they thoroughly understood what is expected of them while going through buds, meaning they know they're going to swim with fins. They know they're going to run a lot. They know they have weekly 4 mile timed runs, and not just the PST running stuff. They actually prepared themselves to get to and through training. Most 18-year-olds prepare themselves to get to the training, and that's it. They don't prepare themselves to get through the training. So that's why I come up with a lot of articles like this, you know, buds to and through Stu Smith. And here it is. It is called The Basics, Getting to and Through Buds. There's a lot in there that needs to be discussed. Um, how to be a better recruit and understand a training timeline and what level of performance you need to be at. Not just crushing the PST, but even more so than that. And then understand what recovery is and everything. So, you know, there's a lot to it. But check out those articles. They're pretty good. So we've had some really good questions. I don't really have a great idea on something to write about like I was hoping. If by some chance you guys get an idea, send me an email, stu@stusmith.com. Happy to read emails, happy to answer them personally, one on one. If you don't want to post it on an open forum, I get it. Send me a video because tomorrow will be back and we'll do a CSS critique show. Happy to critique your videos as well. Some of these questions are pretty good. I think I've written a little bit about it. I wish, Addison, I had a better explanation for your core issues that are going through, but it is difficult to explain it in words, whether I'm speaking it or writing it. If I could see you swim, I could probably see what the problem is versus saying, flex your abs, right? Because that makes no sense. You know what? I may write something about running in soft sand options. I've had a few options over the years that, you know, we didn't have access to soft sand, so we prepared certain ways. Hills was one, stair stepper was another, running with weight was another, lunges, that was a good one. Do more lunges in your workouts. Farmland, dried up riverbeds, things like that. That's a good one. I think I make a list article out of that. Those are always fun. All right, a few more questions. Then I got to bail. Write that article. All right. So Joshua says, I don't know if you already written about or wrote about it or talked about it, but what are things you recommend us to work on a lot to get through buds? Yeah, you got to read those articles. I just posted them. To and through buds. Read that. I realized I had weak shoulders and neck, so now I'm working on that for boats. That's good. Don't waste a lot of time on it because, a lot of times when people have a weakness, they tend to neglect other things that they need to focus on too, like treading water or swimming more with fins, running a little bit more. So make sure whatever you do, it is an all encompassing program that is balanced in a way that's not going to make you overtrain, but smart, additions added to it that can be like a supplemental cool down, working shoulders and neck. That's pretty easy. Um, One more question from Alex. Right now, I'm doing stretches in a 12-week to Buds book twice a day. That's good. Takes about 40 minutes, in which I really like. Would you recommend replacing that for the Mobility 30? No, but I would suggest this. If you feel like maybe when you stretch for 40 minutes, your body's not necessarily warm yet, or let's say it warms up and then 20 minutes in, you feel like you need to, you're getting cold, but you keep on stretching. That's why I like the 5 minute on, 5 minute off cycle. So I do 5 minutes of cardio, get the heart going, get the body heat going, go stretch, foam roll for 5 minutes or massage tool, whatever. Go through that cycle. It seems to just keep my body temperature up to make my stretching feel a little bit easier. So if you're having problems with just like towards the end of a 40-minute stretch, feeling like, yeah, this is getting kind of hard and I'm not really, sweating anymore. Um, Not, I'm getting cold and I'm stretching cold. You may want to do some dynamic stretches mixed in there or at least some, some easy cardio. Let's see. Have you seen the British Royal Marines pipeline? Any advice? I have not, but if you send me an email with some details to it, you know, so I can better understand it, um, happy to help. But I know those guys ruck and they ruck fast. So you need to be able to do like a sub 10 mile with a ruck on because they are going to push the pace on their rucking. They push really hard on running as well, a lot of calisthenics. They are starting to get into some more lifting, but you may need to add the lifting yourself just to be a little more durable for the rucking. But just know it's not a walk when you ruck in the Brits military because they get after their ruck. Every British guy I know pretty much runs with a ruck. They're fast. So I'm sure the Royal Marines are no different. All right. Well, any more questions? I appreciate you guys watching. You can always email me at stu@stewsmith if you think of a new question. Um, Remember, send me a video of you doing the CSS if you want me to critique it. Happy to. You can also see a big group of CSS critiques that I posted on TikTok. Um, TikTok at StuSmith50, same address as my Instagram. In fact, I have a lot of reels over on Instagram. So if you don't like TikTok, you can look at many of the same videos on my Instagram reels. But also have some on YouTube channel as well. They're a little older. They're back in the old days where it wasn't a smartphone doing it. It was a camera. Then I had to download it. And I had to upload it. It was just a mess. So those are old school days back in way in mid 2000s when looks like I was filming with a potato. So, but anyway, newer technology makes it a little bit easier to just shoot a video and post it right up on social media and easy for you guys to find. You don't have to hunt and peck through 500 other videos to get to them. So, all right. So let's see. Ever encountered alligators in those swamps? Absolutely. Alligators, snakes. Snakes are probably more common than alligators. Snakes are everywhere, and they're all, most of them are poisonous or venomous. Um, but yeah, had a few gators. I mean, never had to touch one, never had to wrestle one, but you definitely start running faster when you hear a big splash running along a lake or a um, dried up riverbed that has a few puddles. You tend not to run through knee deep water because you never know what you're going to step on. But yeah, that's growing up in North Florida. Not that it's not as bad as I and put it. You don't see them all the time, but you have to watch out. I will tell you this: they're probably more scared of you than you of them. Let me see. This weekend was a good one. Had a homecoming weekend here at Navy, and one of my buddies who has been on a 2 through and after with me, James Mabry from the class of '77, firefighter, Marine Corps fighter pilot, firefighter, gave me this Phoenix Fire Department shirt. You guys check out that 2 through and after. He's a good guy, humble beginnings that has done really well with doing the things he wants to do. And he's almost 70 years old, and I hope to look like him when I am that age, because I guess he's probably about 14, 15 years older than me, and he's a beast. He beat me in a dip contest, put it that way. I think I got like 30 something dips before I failed, and he was still going. I will say this: he's 50 pounds lighter than me, though, so he's got that going for him. But he's also 15 years older than me. So, all right. So, Jim, I hope you're listening. I know you are. Just wanted to say it was good to see you around. Yeah, they would definitely help with sometimes, those alligators for sure. All right, folks, I need to go. I need to get this article cooking, and I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do, but I think that soft sand list article might be a good one. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. And I will be back tomorrow with some CSS discussions, and I will answer your questions as well. And we will continue on with crushing this week. So have a good one, guys. That's my dog. He says bye too.